it's good to be here with you guys. Mon, I saw that you were gathering guys to like watch movies and stuff like that the other day, but I didn't get it to catch it. What were y'all watching?
Some of us we watched The Conjuring 3. The name
Okay.
is The Devil Made Me Do It.
Was it 4 or 3?
3.
3.
Okay.
3.
Yeah,
Have you
I watched it with them.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, so y'all left me out. That's okay.
It's
That's okay.
okay.
No, just kidding. I didn't want to see it actually. I
Well,
really
not
didn't.
many guys want to watch a scary movie
Right.
anyway, so
Yeah.
He forced me to watch it.
So it said it's 3. So there was a 2 and a 1. Do they? Because I don't know. I don't watch a lot of scary movies. On scary movies, at least maybe this series, is it kind of like they keep the same storyline, or is it like different scary stories?
Well, this movie is basically they kind of changed it 360. The first movie is more based on Lorraine and her husband Ed. But-
Spoiler alerts, by the way.
Oh,
That's okay.
hopefully not. No, like the first movie was good. It's just like this third movie is just whole new different. It's more of like a jury, like a case
Oh.
based on the judge, and it's different.
Right.
I'm not going to ruin it, but I thought it was very I like the movie The Conjuring because it's based on true event, so they kind of did a lot of research on it based on the Catholic teaching and all the priests, and they recorded especially all the stuff that they consume, and you know how in the end, spoiler alert, they kind of show some of the things that they accumulated during the movie of the people who they've been exorcised. So
Wow.
Okay.
So like they have like trophies, kind of.
like that.
Oh gosh, it's kind of scary. And you said you watched it too?
Yeah, so Mon, he,
You're gonna throw you under the bus.
yeah, he really wanted me, Diego, he really wanted me to watch it.
Yeah.
And I was officially, or first I didn't want to watch it because I don't like watching scary movies like that. I can watch any scary movie except like with possession because that's real.
Yeah.
So it just freaks me out. But it wasn't as scary as I thought it would be. But it was pretty good. Yeah, actually, interestingly enough, I had a friend, she was working, she did The Conjuring 2, she was on production. And so before The Conjuring 2 came out, she gave me the script for it. I never watched the movie because
Wow.
it scares me, but yeah. But I got the script beforehand. So, and I know you're a big Conjuring fan.
I am. I love scary movies.
Nice. That's good. I mean, probably making him jealous to get the script, but
Yeah.
that's
Did-
cool. I didn't know that. That's cool.
Yeah. And then, do you like any other scary movies, or is it just
There's maybe The Exorcist.
the original?
The original one, yes, it has to be the original one. Another one is The Possession of Emily Rose.
Ooh.
That's one of my
That-
favorite.
Yeah, actually, I really like that one a lot. And have you seen it?
No, I feel like a little bit out of my depth. Still like talking about scary movies. I'm not really a big scary movie guy. And I think kind of the same reasoning you gave, like to me it's like, well, this stuff is real. Like they actually like exorcisms really happen, and then you say like they're based off of real stories, and I'm like, oh my gosh. So that kind of freaks me out a little bit. Yeah, but I haven't seen them. But maybe after this, I'm willing to watch them. I don't know.
So Exorcism of Emily Rose, I think, is a good start.
Right.
Just because it's not so much about like the exorcism itself; it's more about the court trial.
Mm.
And so, spoiler alert, it's been probably 10 years, so if you missed it, it's
Oh.
it's your fault.
Right.
But basically, Emily Rose dies during the exorcism, and so the priest goes to court, and they're trying to find him guilty or not for being negligent, and is he the cause of her death? Is a demon the cause of her death?
Yeah.
So I think you would actually enjoy that one because it's not so much the exorcism, but the
Gotcha.
court case.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's good to know.
So Diego, what are you interested in?
Well, not necessarily scary movies. I think, although like I wouldn't call myself like a movie buff or anything like that. I kind of usually just kind of go along with what's kind of big in the moment. Like I'll watch the superhero movies and stuff like that. I always loved superheroes when I was a kid and things like that. So I watched a lot of those. As for like films, I never really got into it. Like that's just something that, although like I would watch them and stuff like that, I can't like get too crazy into it. But I think that's something that's been helping me kind of be like, oh yeah, I can kind of see the appreciation behind it. Is that here at the seminary we actually have a priest named Father Marcos who has kind of like a movie club, I guess you can call it. Yeah, and so like every Saturday he'll have like a movie, and then he's like an actual like film buff. He knows his stuff. He like. Because you've been to a few movies too.
Yeah, he knows every movie that like has ever come out.
Yeah.
Like literally, like he knows every single movie. I don't know how he he's
Right.
able to watch everyone. But
Even the old, like, just the new releases and.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
he could go back as the 40s to now,
Yeah.
and he knows. Like you just mentioned a movie, and he'll know it.
Right. Yeah, and then he also kind of
Yeah.
he does like a dialogue after it as well. So it's not just like we're getting together and watching a movie for fun, but like
It's like
he
a faith in
finds-
film.
Yeah, exactly, faith in film. So it's like a series, and he's like able to like draw something out of every movie and kind of get the message, get the narrative that goes beyond just like the pictures that you're seeing on the screen, which is why I kind of like going to those nights whenever I can. But yeah, it's super fascinating. So that's something that for me, I'm like, oh yeah, I would love to kind of get more into it. But then there's sometimes there are movies that I just like, whoa, like a little bit out of my depth. Like the older ones that he watches, I'm like, I have really had to pay attention on these.
No, yeah, I used to go to the movies like every single weekend when I was in college,
Nice.
and like so much so that I watched every movie that was at the theater. So I would wait. I just wait for new releases.
Right.
Yeah, but now I not so much because of COVID, but
Yeah.
things are slowly opening up. But
Absolutely.
what's your like favorite movie of all time, on?
It has to be Crazy Rich Asians.
Really? Okay.
Really?
Yes. I don't know.
I haven't seen it.
But-
It's on my
That's a good
list
one.
on the bottom,
No.
but.
Can't believe you just say that.
Tell me what is it about?
It's just like typical how watch like all the an example like Kim Kardashian, like the lives like in what do you call
Like
it,
Kim Kardashian.
Kim
and
Kardashian
all
shows
that.
like that, but
Yeah.
this Crazy Rich Asians is more of the movie based on a guy who live in a have everything planned for him. Like his mom and parents are so rich. Well, supposedly I don't mean spoil alert, but his mom and his parents had to work their butt off to get to earn their income, but when they got really rich, they got really popular. So there was like developing like hotels and stuff like that. The mom and the dad was like building their business, so they got really, really famous. And then her son was very spoiled, but he fell in love with this kind of like a Cinderella story.
Ah.
She's out of nowhere, and somehow this girl got him hooked. It's like, I got you, like a fish body. So he fell in love with her, so he proposed, and he went to, to make a story short, he introduced her to the family, but, typical Asian family is like, yeah, if you're so rich, then you don't fit to be in the house, basically. Like anyone since he's poor, and then the mom doesn't like that. It's just
Right.
all other things, but there's other things going on with the stories too. So it's a lot to deal with life. Like, I like those type of movies because it relates to real life stories.
Right.
Like, we don't pay attention, but it does happen in real life, like to Asian culture, like between families and all stuff like that. Like how family, like especially the parents, like very traditional, is how they're saying that, yeah, you're not good for my son, or you're not good for my daughter, because they kind of break up their marriage. It's just it's a lot going on, but it's kind of help us relate to society too. So that's why I kind of like this type of movies. Just like any other movie that we watch, we kind of relate to our real life, like how it can depict us in our life.
Absolutely.
Like that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I had seen it too, and I was a little bit reluctant to watch it, just because it's just like another rom-com. It's just like it'll have the same narrative, the same story, but although it has like similar aspects to it, there's still something like different about it because of how it ties into the culture, and so it allowed me to kind of have a better appreciation for Asian culture, especially when it comes to how they see like poverty and also how they see wealth, which is different from where I come from a little bit. And so, like, even though it seems like a rom-com, I know it's at the bottom of your list. I would recommend it.
But it's a good comedy too, right?
Yeah,
Diego?
it actually is pretty funny. They have actresses like Awkwafina. She like kind of blew up. She was in that movie.
I'll judge if it's funny.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned that you have like a list of movies.
Yeah.
What would you say out of all the movies that you want to see is kind of like top list?
Right now, I think my top list is A Quiet Place 2.
Oh.
And I would have to watch it at the theater because I saw
Right.
like if it I've seen it at home, The Quiet Place 1, and at the theater, and the experience is so different when you're at the theater. It's like when I got there the first time at the theater for the movie, everything was just magnified. Like people grabbing their chips and their popcorn. It's just like everybody started looking at each other like, "Will you please be quiet?
They're gonna kill us."
Yeah, they're gonna hear us. No. But no, it was pretty awesome, and then I showed some friends with it on Netflix when it came out and stuff like that. But it wasn't the same experience, so I definitely want to see it at the theater because it's just so good and well done.
But isn't that movie was the producer? The producer was
John Krasinski.
And,
Yeah, that's right,
and Emily
yeah.
Blunt, right?
Yeah, his wife.
His wife,
From
yeah.
The Office, my favorite show, by the way.
Yeah, make the face.
No, yeah, definitely great show. It's I can tell you just about everything about that show.
Wow.
Yeah.
Favorite episode, season 5, episode 14, fire safety. But,
Ali. We'll have to save that for another time to talk about TV shows. And
Oh,
stuff
yeah,
like that.
no, for
that'd be
sure.
great.
Like now you know that's your favorite TV show. So
Yeah. absolutely.
But have you seen A Quiet Place one?
yes, I have.
I've seen clips, and it kind of goes back to like horror movies. So I'm just kind of like, I think I'll pass on that
But
one. Yeah.
I really don't consider A Quiet Place to be a horror movie though. It's more like a thriller. It wasn't
Yeah, like a thriller,
scary,
suspense.
suspense.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Got you. Yeah.
Like, it's not as grotesque as
Right.
The Grudge. You know how
Yeah.
like people like kind of stabbing and like cutting each other, something like that.
yeah.
So I got a question for y'all.
Okay.
What kind of movies inspire your faith?
Wow, that's a good question. Well, I think kind of the obvious answer would be like the Catholic films, like and stuff like that. And there have been some good Catholic films recently. Although I know the stereotype is like, oh, it's a Catholic film, like it's gonna be very low quality, very low budget, stuff like that. But I think recently there's kind of been a little bit of a turn in that. But I think if that's like the cop out answer, I'd rather give something else. So like a movie that kind of just inspires my faith, kind of through the narrative and stuff like that. I think it might be kind of on the nose is The Lord of the Rings, just like the whole series, and The Hobbit as well. We know like maybe y'all know like Tolkien and stuff like that, and how like he was Catholic and he kind of tried tying into the same idea, like the narrative into the stories. So for me, that's something that I always find very interesting. It's like, oh, like I can watch the movie and then imagine it as being like Christ, or imagine myself in there, like in my faith journey and stuff like that. So that's for me, but I think that's also kind of a cop-out answer. But
No,
yeah.
well, it's a really good movie. Actually, I've read all the books, even like
Wow.
the Silmarillion and all the Unfinished Tales.
Dang.
And I thought I knew the most about it until I met, Robert, the seminarian.
Yeah.
He
Mhm.
knows so much more. He reminds me of Gimli, the dwarf. It's perfect. But he knows so much about it. Like, yeah, things that I don't know. I thought I knew a lot, but yeah, no, it's pretty awesome. But yeah, I would say as far as like faith, technically it's not an official movie. It's a series, and I just started watching it. The Chosen.
Oh yeah.
That's a good
It
one.
has like, it's one of the most humanized
Yeah.
versions of depictions of Christ in his life.
Mm-hmm.
And then even like the apostles, I think my favorite character is Matthew. So the way they made Matthew the tax collector is that he's like sort of autistic,
Right.
has this sort of like Asperger's, so he's very socially awkward, but very, very smart.
Right.
But the way they made his character was just pretty awesome, and then just seeing even like Mary Magdalene and her encounter with Christ in that series was just like awesome. And I think my favorite character though is Nicodemus.
Oh yeah.
If you've seen, there's this struggle because he's a Pharisee, and there's this struggle because he knows all the prophecies from the Old Testament, and he's seeing like, well, only someone who has God in their life, or who is God, can perform these miracles. And he sees that this is the Messiah, but there's this conflict between being a Pharisee and then trying to be a follower of Christ. And the way it's portrayed, I think it's done so well. I would recommend that series to anybody.
Yeah, it's really great. And before we get to you, because I want to hear what inspires you, I think just to mention on The Chosen is, I find it interesting because the question is kind of what kind of inspires your faith. And really it is like the human aspect of The Chosen, that like, it's a Catholic film, it's kind of dealing with spirituality and stuff like that, but yeah, it's the human thing that kind of like elevates you to like think more of Christ and stuff like that. So that's what I really find inspiring about The Chosen as well. And I think you kind of picked on that very well.
Yeah, and honestly, like inspiring my faith, and I think even my vocation,
Right.
in some senses, because films like that, or like series like The Chosen, or even if you've seen Therese.
I haven't seen that one.
Therese, is that
Therese
the
Little
series?
Flower. There's a movie,
Okay.
and then or like there's other, like Mother Teresa's another film that I really
I
love.
like that one.
It was like done in the 90s, but it's done so well. But what inspires me in my vocation, I think, is like you said, seeing that human aspect of
Right.
sainthood, and seeing people authentically love Christ.
Right.
And just following him and just putting it on film is and finding the right people to portray that is not easy. But it's really been an inspiration. Like probably the one I can watch and repeat is the Mother Teresa film. But it's just like crazy how much a person can love, I guess.
Right.
And then you see it on film, and it's like, okay, well, maybe it's not that hard
Yeah.
to follow Christ. If I just say no to a couple of things and try to be a better person, is it really hard to be a better person?
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. Try and
Well-
top that.
Oh, I will. One of the movie, I don't know the name of the movie, but it was back then. Like it's recently though, like a couple years ago. It's like I think it's called The Shelter. I don't know the name, but it was
Is
like
it
Mark
The Shack?
Wahlberg?
The Shack.
The
yes,
Shack.
The Shack.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, The Shack.
Yeah.
I really like that
Mark
movie a lot.
Wahlberg.
Is that him?
Yeah. No. The
He is
Shack.
Catholic, though.
Yeah.
Well, but I like the movie because The Shack. It talks about a family who basically. Spoiler alert again. I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
Everyone.
If you're watching this
Yeah.
at this point, I mean, come on, just watch the movies.
Yeah. So basically, it's just that this family they went on a trip. So they left the young kid out to play in the. It's like they might be in the jungle or in the camp. It's just a camp. And so basically, she got kidnapped, and the kidnapper who kidnapped her kind of basically, kind of killed her.
Wow.
So he, since that time, he felt really down. He doubted his own faith, but luckily, he has reminiscent dreams that God is. But this is kind of funny how God is a woman, but just ignore that. But just pretend that God is Jesus Christ, who's kind of helped him get through that denial process, and then his emotions, what he's going through as a family, and especially for his wife and kids. Even though it's like typical for most American now, you can see it as if your kid's wife, that's basically families are being destroyed. Like either they end up getting divorced or they go separate ways because it's like they feel like life is not worth living anymore because they love their kids so much. But this movie kind of helps families kind of go through that stage of being together, like being united.
Right.
And it's a good way of kind of trusting God. Like even though we go through so much, like things that we're going through can be hectic but hard, But that's for me. That's just the path of life. That's
Yeah.
and it's just the way how they depict everything like slowly as their emotions started like being acceptance and trusting and like what God can really give us in the long run,
Yeah, there was, I guess with that movie, I haven't seen it. It's on my list, higher than Crazy Rich Asians.
Oh my goodness.
But I know my brother and sister-in-law watched it, and during the time that they watched it, they had a miscarriage around that time. And so, I mean, up to then I had never knew somebody who really had a miscarriage, so I didn't know the effects that it could have on someone. Because, I mean, it's a live child. You lost a child, your own child. But it was a process, I think, for them in their faith and a step closer to healing. I don't want to say it healed completely because it's I mean, grief is something, but it takes time. But it definitely was a movie that helped them along the way to where they're at now, I think. And because they're the ones who mentioned it to me, they're like, hey, you got to watch it because it talks about God and God's a woman and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay. Okay. But no, it's definitely on my list. So you just boosted it up a little higher.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, you need to watch it, Luis. I would recommend to everyone. So.
Okay, nice.
You just got to do a little bit more work on Crazy Rich Asians.
Yeah, I don't know.
Keep telling him every single day until he watches it and it's over.
Actually, I might watch it eventually because I do like the cultural aspects of stuff. Like, there's like some shows that I watched was I've been watching recently Kim's Convenience.
Oh,
Have you seen
yes,
that?
from Netflix, right?
Yeah, Kim Convenience, and what was the other one? Master of None. So it deals like with Aziz Ansari. He's Indian.
Yeah.
And then Kim's Convenience is they're Korean.
Yeah.
So I do love those shows because even though I'm Hispanic, I grew up here in San Antonio. My parents are from Mexico, but you see those cultural similarities.
Yeah, right.
And I noticed it a lot when my roommate from college, he's Vietnamese. And so when I went to visit his family, I was like, okay, we're a lot different from our culture.
Yeah.
But so his family was Buddhist. And so when I went in his house, I was like, oh, it just reminds me of a Mexican home, but instead of like Our Lady of Guadalupe, they had a Buddha on the wall. So I was like, oh, this is very similar, and they're very, it's a very similar culture, just a different aspect. But I do love culture, movies and shows, so it's nice.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's good. You're selling yourself now. That's good. I think if we can now that like we talk more about like the faith inspired movies, I think what my mind always goes to is when we were kids. I had 3 older brothers. We would always watch a movie that my dad would put on called Marcelino, Panivino, which is a Spanish movie about like this little kid who lives like in a friary with a bunch of friars. I think he was an orphan, and I just remember that my dad would watch it, and he would just be crying, and I was like what's going on? Like I would watch the movie and I was just like, oh my god, can we change it to like Yu-Gi-Oh or Pokemon, please, anything else. I don't want to watch this. But he would like make us watch it like over and over again whenever we had time. And it wasn't until like later where I grew up, like I realized like, the significance of the movie. If you haven't seen it, like it's this little kid who like finds an image of Christ, like a crucifix, and then he starts talking to him, because that's kind of like what the friars teach him, like, oh, you talk, you pray with Jesus, right? You talk to him, and then Jesus starts talking back, and he asks him like, are you hungry? And he was like, yes, I'm like hungry. And so he brings him bread, and then he brings him like something to drink and stuff like that. And so he just sits up there and like talks with Jesus. Jesus like comes down from the cross, eats with him, drinks with him. And as a kid, I'm just like, yeah, this is just like magic. This is like whatever. Like I don't get it. But like now that I'm like discerning and also like growing in my relationship and love with Christ, it's like, well, frick, like that's like what I'm trying to do. Like I'm trying to eat with Christ. I'm trying to like drink with him, be with him. And so that's a movie that I haven't rewatched yet, because I think I'll probably cry just like my dad.
No, I've actually seen it.
Yeah.
When I was a little kid. I don't remember much of it, but I do remember that part where he's trying to feed him. But it terrified me because there's this, at my home parish, St. Leo's.
Plug A.
Yeah, they have this huge crucifix with Jesus, and when I was a kid, I used to think the same thing, like he's gonna come off the cross. So I was scared when I was only like 3 or 4 when I saw it, but yeah.
Had the
Great movie.
reverse effect.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
For me, it's so opposite, because when I grew up with my family, we always like to watch those long series Vietnamese. It's like Chinese and Korean drama.
Really?
It's always either crying, like they always cry. It's always sad. Like Korean drama, you watch it, they're always sad. I have one of the priests who's a priest for Houston. His name he loved Korean drama. He said that what I remember, he said it's kind of connect him to Christ, like his vocations.
Right.
So basically, it's just you see this a couple. God bring 2 couples together. Either they bring them together, or in the end they kind of break them apart. So it's like for us, like when I see it, when I watch those type of movie in a Korean drama, it's for me it's like either give myself to God or get married. You know, it's just that's what they do. So every time when I watch Korean drama, I can relate what he meant by, you know, there's always something, whatever you watch, it's always something that will get to you.
Right.
Like there's like a little seed, like every movie you think about it, like there's always a little seed that planted you slowly, and then when you watch it, you realize, oh yeah, that's me. Like I can relate to that.
Right.
It's like everything that like we watch, like even comedy, horror movie, like everything, there's always something that implanted in us that we can relate to. So when I hear you guys talk about that, make me reminisce about my childhood.
Yeah, well, Diego's gonna laugh at me for watching this movie, because I really enjoy it. But have you seen Train to Busan?
Yes.
Okay.
What is that?
Was it you, or maybe it was someone else?
Probably somebody else.
Okay.
What's
You
Train
need to
Busan?
watch that.
It's the one I told you.
I gotta add it to my
We're
list.
on Netflix. It's a zombie one that you're like, oh, another zombie movie.
Oh yeah.
Who's old man now?
Yeah. Forgetting things.
Actually, that's one of my favorite zombie movies. It has so many meanings for me. It's just Train to Busan.
Yeah. And it's just this dad trying to protect his daughter from zombies. But it's really about sacrifice.
Yeah.
Right.
And so I think like Father Marcos has a great job when we have our what's every week that we have movie nights. So movie nights, he always ties it in to like a faith perspective or more like a moral perspective. But like Train to Busan, I guess, is just the same thing.
Did he pick that movie? Or?
Not yet. I'm trying to get him on it.
Okay.
But it's just like, it's about sacrifice. So the father sacrificed his life to save his daughter.
Wow.
Which I think, and I was listening to Jordan Peterson, and he talks about all great books, all good movies have this like sense of sacrifice.
Right.
And it always keeps coming back in different forms, like whether it's Harry Potter or whether it's Train to Busan or different movies, but there's always like a sense of this hero myth or this hero that always comes back to sacrificing for the people. And so I think in some senses, in every movie, you can probably find Christ if you look.
Right.
I think the true saint is someone who can find Christ in everything.
Right. Put that on a T-shirt. I'll wear it. Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, that's something that really I've listened to a little bit of Jordan Peterson as well, and he talks about that a lot. But I think the first time I heard about kind of that idea of like, oh, well, you can find Christ in like movies and like stuff like that, was I went on a retreat over a summer, 4 summers. I don't remember how long ago it was. It was when I was in college. And kind of the idea of the retreat was that like we can find truth, beauty, and goodness in all things. And then so they showed us Moana. Yeah, and I was like, what the heck, Moana? And I had never seen it, and I had heard about it. It's kind of the same thing with all the other movies I've heard about it. I'm just kind of like, eh.
I just watched it like a month ago.
Yeah. And then, so we watched Moana, and then when I was watching it, they're like, well, yeah, like, we don't want you to, like, be, like, in-depth, like, searching for the meanings, but, like, just think about it. And when I was watching it, I was like, oh my gosh, like, there's a lot of sacrifice. There's, like, this idea of returning home. There's this idea of redemption, becoming who you are. And I was like, oh my, and I started crying. I was like crying in the movie. I was like, wow, this is Moana, man. I'm crying. But now, like, every time I watch Moana, like, almost the same emotion is elicited just because in my mind, I'm already prepping myself to, like, see Christ in there. And so every time I see Christ in there, that, like, draws this emotion out of me. Then I'm just like, man, like what is it? And I think I get a lot of that from my dad, from like when he would watch movies and cry. Like it's kind of the same thing where, and then now like as I'm getting older, I'm realizing, okay, like he wasn't just like being a wimp or something like that. Like he was really tuned in. He was tuned into the narrative, tuned into his own spiritual journey. And I'm just like, dang, like I hope I can be like him when I grow up. Yeah, that's the plan, right? Yeah, so.
But he's a deacon now, right?
Yeah, he's a permanent deacon now. Yeah, thanks be to God. Yeah. I'll tell him to use marcelino panivino in one of his homilies. Yes. I won't have to mention. I will tell him not to mention that he cried though. That'll be okay. You can decide on that one.
We have a sign in the background.
Yeah, please cry for us.
That's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but what about comedies? Do y'all like watching comedies? Like it doesn't have to be like strict comedies, but just kind of like happy ending type stuff. Because that's usually what I go for. Because I can't handle the horror stuff. Or no, not really.
Okay, so this is like either you love him or hate him. I actually love Adam Sandler.
Oh, yeah. I love him.
Yeah. We got 3.
Oh, perfect. That's a hard combination. So, yeah, one of my favorite movies, one of them is Click.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's like almost makes you cry,
yeah.
But at the same time, it's like so funny. What's the other one? The 51st Dates.
Yes,
51st Dates.
That's my favorite one.
51st Dates.
Yes, he sacrificed. Like you say, remember sacrifice. He loved his chick, and then
his chicken or his chick.
No, I say he loved his chick as in his girl, like his girlfriend.
Okay, I hope it's not a chicken.
I didn't say chicken, Luis.
I know, I'm just messing with you.
Well, it's all about sacrifice. You know, every day he has to repeat the same thing over and over.
Yeah.
Can you believe how redundant that can be for all of us to kind of put up someone that you love so much, like do it over and over again. Like you wake up the next day, it's like, who are you again?
So that's why we're not married.
We are married to the church. God's
yes,
willing, right?
Oh, yeah. So we'll wake up every day for sure.
Yeah.
Happy.
But
yeah,
happy, yes.
Yeah.
But it's better than him waking up every day, getting slapped or getting punched.
I need to rewatch that movie.
Yes, I think we should all watch this here. 51st day at the seminary. It'd be hilarious.
Yeah. We'll bring it up to Father Marco.
I think that would be a good idea. I'd like that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure he's seen it though.
Yeah, I'm sure he has. I wonder if he's an Adam Sandler lover or hater. We'll have to figure that out.
Yeah, you're only one or the other. You can't be in between.
Yeah, no, absolutely not.
But he does have a really good sense of humor though. All his movie.
Yeah. I like all of Happy Gilmore. Billy Madison.
Was it the movie with the little kid that he had to raise? Big Daddy.
Big Daddy.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, I forgot all about that movie.
Well, all right. No, it's been great talking to y'all.
Yeah, absolutely.
And talking about movies and everybody out there.
Yeah.
But we'll be getting together soon, I'm sure, and
absolutely
enjoying life. And
make sure you like, subscribe.
Yes.
Maybe you want to leave your favorite movie in the comments, or let us know whatever you think about some of our opinions on the movies. What should we put at the top of the list for Luis? And should he bump up Crazy Rich Asians?
Yeah, tell him to bump up Crazy Rich Asians.
We'll see. I don't know. If you can get enough comments, maybe I'll watch it.
Oh my God.
Okay,
Don't
love to
worry.
see it.
Okay, give me like 10 comments and maybe I'll...
Please do that.
They'll all be just me and him.
I will do that. I will comment. Make sure you watch that.
Okay, you're only
But
2. Okay, so if we can get 8 more, then maybe I'll watch.
Sounds good. All right, y'all.
Thank you for your time, everyone.
Bye.